couple weeks ago, I showed off this one-of-a-kind Intel Chatpad prototype from 2001. Or at least, I thought it was one of a kind. Say hello to number 2, or rather, number 80. Okay, so you might be wondering, how the hell did this insignificant YouTuber manage to get his hands on not one, but 2 extremely rare Intel Chatpad prototypes? Well folks, that's the benefit of having a tiny YouTube channel able to reach 6 or 7 people. When I released my original Chatpad show and tell video, I got a ton of comments, and sprinkled in amongst them were a few comments from people claiming to be former Intel engineers who knew this product. And one of those engineers was a fellow named Alex, who introduced himself as a former UX, that's user experience I think, engineer responsible for, I think literally, how the end user experiences a device like this. Alex would have been one of a whole bunch of engineers, all with different areas of expertise working on this product. He did not have first-hand knowledge of every aspect of the Chatpad, since his main focus was UX, but he did have some insights. Further, he had a Chatpad of his own. And his, unlike mine, is complete and functional. And he was very generously willing to loan it to me so that some of the thousands of viewers who viewed my previous video can get some closure, since mine was apparently just an empty shell. Alex has given me permission to explore the device, including minor disassembly, very gently, to give users as much insight into its functioning as possible. Now, some commenters on my last video took issue with my use of the word prototype to describe my Chatpad. They argued the word prototype typically meant a one-off type deal, very unfinished, often just PCB or wire wrap. Some even accused me of clickbaiting on that last video with that word. Ouch. But hang on a sec, isn't the Commodore 65 called a prototype? It is by Wikipedia. There were a bunch produced, many of them work, and they look otherwise pretty finished. Alex has confirmed the Chatpad never went into final production. These units were produced strictly for internal development purposes at Intel, and surviving examples were simply taken or given to engineers after Intel canned the whole consumer products division. So no, these probably weren't pilot units either, like this Atari Falcon, which was produced by Atari by 2 different manufacturers who were basically testing out their processes, being evaluated on quality, with only one selected for final production going forward. These units were otherwise finished and were eventually sold to the public. Anyway, prototype is the word I'm going to be using today, although I'm more than willing to hear arguments against it in the comments. Respectfully, of course. So, what's my plan for this video? Well, first of all, we're going to do another hardware tour, looking at similarities and differences between this unit and my unit, and then powering it up to see how it currently sits. Next, I want to try connecting to the base station. Alex tells me that the software updates for the base station for the Chatpad were never released, so odds are we're not going to see anything too exciting there, but it's worth a try. Finally, we're going to see if there are any quote-unquote backdoors into the device. Is there a BIOS we can access? Is there a secret developer or offline mode that provides some functionality without the software? I asked viewers in a recent YouTube short what key combinations they thought might enable such access, and we'll see if any of their guesses were right. Okay, so first let's have a look at Alex's Chatpad up close. Alex says the case design was done by a famed California design firm called IDEO. IDEO also did designs for other companies like Apple, so that's probably why the design language is so consistent with the swoopy, translucent, futuristic look that was really popular back then. At first blush, it's pretty much identical on the outside to mine, although there are 2 stickers that my unit doesn't have. One sticker says Beta 0, serial number 80. So that right there tells you that there were more than a few of these units produced, although who knows how many the actual number was. The other is standard boilerplate that you often find on prototype devices, warning that this is an engineering sample in Intel's parlance and not for public release, which makes sense given that this device may not comply with things like FCC radio interference regulations. Deep inside the case, we can just barely see the outline of the motherboard, and yeah, it looks pretty tiny. Okay, so let's see what this thing can currently do. Alex warned me it doesn't really do much, basically powers up looking for a base station, and then nada. Or maybe a little more than nada with this horrible klaxon that sounds when it can't find the base station. And that's kind of to be expected. Alex did say the software for the Chatpad was never completed to his knowledge and definitely never released. Indeed, when I looked online for software, I was kind of hoping to discover a late release of the base station software that might have hidden Chatpad support. But alas, all available software seems to be version 1.0, so yeah, this isn't looking too good already. But before we go messing around with the base station, let's open up this new to me Chatpad and see what the guts look like. Like I said, Alex gave me his blessing to do this, provided I was careful, so no pressure. I was hoping this was just going to be a matter of removing the bottom screws here and then popping off the cover to reveal the motherboard with minimal fuss, but I'm seldom that lucky. It turns out the interesting side of the PCB is facing topside under the keyboard, and I have to remove the lid, the cover, the keyboard, display, and everything else to get at it, all while avoiding very fragile ribbon cables, and then carefully lifting out the lead for the batteries. Yeah, this is giving modern laptops a run for their money for complicated disassembly. I'm not going to fully take this thing apart or remove the keyboard cable. There's stuff here that just doesn't feel like it wants to move, and I'm desperately afraid of breaking it. Once apart though, we can kind of see the PCB here, and it's a Samsung? My god, it's the ancestor of all Samsung Galaxy cell phones, the Samsung Solar System S. Yeah, the board is tiny, even smaller than I expected. I think this is the CPU, and one of these two is the RAM and the other is probably the firmware. I note there does seem to be a button of some kind on the board here, as well as this group of jumpers. No idea what they do, although I suspect the button is just a handy reset or power on button for people that were working with the board outside of a case. I'd love to press this button with the thing powered up, but I'm a little bit afraid of having it all in pieces like this with the batteries. Yeah, I don't want to short anything. This is not my device, and definitely I don't feel comfortable experimenting in that fashion. There's also this 3-pin cable that seems to go nowhere. The backside of the board says Rev 2.0 Fiji, and I think Fiji was the code name for the project. I think this daughter board is the actual wireless module. I know there's no wire going to what I thought was the antenna up here, so this appears to be just for show. There's no name on the keyboard, so not sure who made this, but it is definitely a custom job with these bulky menu keys up top. Okay, let's carefully put this thing back together, and now we will get the base station together with the Chatpad, kind of like the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster and Ghostbusters, and we'll see what happens. I picked up this base station when I won my own Chatpad, mistakenly thinking it was a working unit. The base station cost me $20, and we can see on the box here that there's various devices already supported, just not the one I want. I'm not sure why, but the box has a corner cut off of it. Otherwise, it looks to be pretty much unmolested, brand new. I'm thinking maybe this mail-in rebate was the motive for the trim, possibly cutting off the UPC here. As much as I'm looking forward to testing this, I am a little bit antsy about disturbing this vintage, unused item. I'll probably never get it back into the box as neatly as it was here. Oh well. And yeah, here's the software. It's sealed, and yeah, it's version 1.0. Darn it. For computer purposes, we have this IBM ThinkPad 380XD. Yeah, I should probably dust more. Although I think it's probably more likely the base station would have seen use with a desktop computer, this is kind of the closest thing I have to being period correct, being released in 1997. Windows 98 I think should probably be the right operating system for this era, plus it fits nicely on my desk. I was tempted to remove the sealed install disk, but why bother when I can just stick it on this USB stick. The software only seems to have a folder for Windows 98 drivers, so good call on this laptop. The joys of running installs on Windows 98. Yeah, since this is going to take a while, I'm going to go do something else for a bit. Maybe write a 500-page novel or something. Install is done, and now we have to plug in the base station. I forgot how Windows 98 often required you to put the install or OS disk in afterwards when you plug the device in. Windows 98 never could get anything done in one go. Alright, so the wireless control panel here doesn't really give us much, and there's nothing about the Chatpad at all as expected. I decided to go on a little expedition into the installer files. This base station was apparently bundled with a mouse, but it has drivers for other devices like the gamepad tucked away here. Sadly, nothing for our Chatpad. Alright, so I'm going to do a literal plug and pray here. The base station has a USB cable as well as a power cable, so hopefully no smoke, since it's been sitting for a quarter century now. Nope, we're working, I think. Alright, now for the moment we've all been waiting for. The base station is based, and the Chatpad is ready to connect. So let's power up here. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be doing much. I'll hit the connect button on the base station just in case. And nothing. Oh, yes, it worked. We get a new message saying, starting software, please wait. Alright, well, let's wait this out a little bit. And while we're waiting, I'll throw on some rather appropriate music.
from the Chatpad to the PC to your ISP, from the Chatpad to the PC to your ISP, from the Chatpad to the PC to your ISP, from the Chatpad to the PC to your ISP,
from the Chatpad
to the PC to your ISP,
from the Chatpad
to the PC to your ISP to the internet.
Well, I waited about 20 minutes and yeah, nothing. So I think it's waiting on software from the computer side that will never come. Damn it. Well, that's prototyping for you, folks. Unfortunately, unless there's another engineer, possibly from the software side of things, who has a copy of the beta software available, I think that's about as far as we go here. Not that we would have been able to do much even if it had worked. Alex advised that the Chatpad was very limited. It could do email and chat only with a small number of services like AOL, Yahoo, etc. And those services are gone anyway. But these two things together kind of look cool, right? Okay, so now to the final part of our video. We're going to attempt to hijack this thing by seeing if we can find any hidden backdoors into it for engineering purposes, like maybe it's BIOS. Or maybe there's an Easter egg. I did a YouTube short shout out on this one, and various commenters wrote in to give their ideas on what key sequences might lead us to this imaginary secret mode. Some of the comments were, well, kind of funny, like Alien Bob's suggestion of up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. If you're a Nintendo player, that would be familiar, but yeah, we don't have a start button here, sadly. Sorry, Alien Bob. And also apologies to Donald Klopper, Control-Alt please isn't an option either. Tigra Frog suggested jumpers on the motherboard not soldered or marked. Well, we do know from our exploration earlier that there is a jumper header there, and some random wires, and the mysterious button on the motherboard. But unfortunately, lacking documentation, and since this isn't my device, I can't really do much there without potentially risking damage. That said, if any experts think there's something we can safely try, let me know, and I'll run it by Alex for the okay. POV with RC suggested holding down one of the buttons on the left or right hips during boot up. That seems reasonable, and I think he's referring to the buttons on the sides, so I'll give that a shot with the email button here. Nope. I'll try some buttons on the right as well. 0. Well, it was a decent suggestion. WebJoe King suggested holding escape on boot up. Now that actually sounds plausible, especially since escape happens to also be the home key when you press the function key. So we'll try that, and denied. And I'll try it with the function key held down just for the hell of it. Nope. Donald Peterson suggested both volume buttons and power. Well, we'll give that a try, although it's going to be kind of tricky because the volume buttons are actually shared with the arrow keys and are accessed via the FN key. So yeah, this is going to be a little awkward, but this one's for you, Donald. Nope. VOS Life suggests Control-Alt-Delete. Totally plausible, except we have no Alt key. The Only Asher says, delete button mashing on boot up. Aha, now that sounds very possible. Pretty sure most computers had the delete option to enter BIOS. Maybe this thing does too, right? Bruh. Nah. eBoyd suggested holding down the caps lock and num lock on boot up. Sadly, we have no number locks since there's no numeric keypad, but we can try the caps lock here. Negative. Sorry, eBoyd. Well folks, that's kind of it. I am open to more suggestions and thoughts, of course. I'll post pictures of the motherboard on my website blog. Did I mention I have my website sort of functioning now? I have my website sort of functioning now. And I'll link all that in the description. If we come up with any further interesting ideas, I'm definitely open to taking another run at this, since Alex said we can keep this thing for a little bit. I'll also wait a bit to see if any other Intel engineers come forward as a result of this or the previous video, especially with the coveted beta software for the base station. Otherwise, if I don't see anything actionable in a few weeks, I'll return this unit to its owner. And I do want to again thank Alex profusely for allowing us to do this. For viewers traumatized by the lack of operation in my previous video, he has provided very valuable closure. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please smack that like button. If not, dislike is there waiting for you. If you're new here and you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing. And if you really like what I do, feel free to join my Patreon, which has various small perks like early access to my videos, patron-only content, and behind-the-scenes stuff. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.